Hello, everybody. This is Rob Fredette with the podcast HODGEPOD, and I have another special guest. And I'm truly honored that I have this guest on my podcast. He is an actor, he's a director, and we're going to be talking about a film that he directed, Blind Blood, which he also starred in. If you want to see a good action-packed movie, Blind Blood is a great movie. His name is Michael Marco, and he has been gracious enough to join me. We're going to be talking movies, his career, and just movies in general. I love talking film. And Michael, welcome to my podcast. I'm truly honored that you're here. I really am.
And the honor is all mine. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. And what an intro.
I just love talking movies, and I've learned so much. So first of all, I'd like to have my guests introduce themselves to my audience. And then we'll talk about Blind Blood. We'll talk about films and just some other stuff. But please introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Michael Marco, and I grew up in the south of France in the 70s and 80s, and moved to Texas in 1993, and got involved in a film business almost right away. And was in Texas for about 30 years, and my wife and I and the three pups, we just moved to the Northeast, and about a year and a half ago, just when we wrapped the movie, actually, just when we wrapped Blind Blood, it was time for a change. It was time for us to move. And so we did. And so we just moved to the Northeast. So, we're up here now. So it's been great. It's been fantastic.
Excellent. Excellent. So thanks for connecting with me. I really appreciate it. So Blind Blood came out. And what a movie this is. If you want an action-packed movie, which is just, you don't know what's happening next. I watched the movie, and I can just tell you how it was full of tension. I was waiting for something for bad to happen every scene because you just didn't know. So talk about this movie you directed, but you also starred in, and I didn't realize it until 3/4 of the movie through. So talk about Blind Blood, because the actors in this were just awesome.
We got lucky. The cast is so incredible. We got very, very lucky. The movie, the idea started like a long time ago. Something that happened to me kind of, originated the whole concept. And somebody broke into my car in 1997, I believe, 96. And they stole my, CD player. And I was telling the story to a friend of mine a couple of days later. And that's when the whole concept of somebody breaking into your home and somehow you take over the situation, but you don't call the authority right away, kind of came up. And the idea stuck with me for a very long time. And when I started collaborating with Richard Kroll, who's the cinematographer on Blind Blood, and also one of the executive producers on the feature, we collaborated on each other's project for about 8 years, I believe. Before Richard one night kind of asked me, we just wrapped and we were looking at the property, because that's actually the location in the movie is Richard's place. Richard actually lives there. And so the warehouse is kind of divided in, 2/3 as a studio kind of a place and 1/3 of the living quarters. So kind of asked me, you say, hey, can you write something for this place? And I kind of, looked around and I'm like, why don't we try, and that idea that I had with me, and I'm like, I think we can manage something like that. Or so I thought. And so I think I got the first draft done in about 3 months. It was very quick. It kind of came to me. And of course, the shooting draft was very different than the actual written draft, as things kind of evolved and changed, and, even the vibe and the look of the film, all of that, especially the vibe, because it had definitely a little bit more of a many more like one-liners and zingers and kind of, and we started to go away from that. We were like, well, why don't we make the kind of movies that, we enjoy watching a lot more, than trying to do an homage to an 80s movie or whatever you want to call it. And I thought the idea was very interesting. And so we kind of stripped away some of the comedy, even though there is still some comedy in the film. I think it's funny, but it's always hard to gauge what people think it's funny. You're more to me, comedy it's a very hard thing to do. Different type of humors out there. But so we, the script, got written after a while, and we shopped it around for about 4.5 years. And I mean, we really shopped it from the East Coast to the West Coast. And, people were interested, but not enough to pull the trigger on this thing. What I think what happened was that when you read the original script, it was hard to tell if it was a thriller or a horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that the way it was written, there's a lot of violence in it and whatnot. And I just, remember trying to tell people it's the difference to me between the thriller and the horror is how graphic you want to be visually. Mm-hmm. And so if you pull back, it becomes more of a thriller. If you just let it go, then it becomes a horror movie. But we weren't interested in making, another torture movie or whatever you want to call it. So we injected a lot more to it to just keep it interesting. And, we kind of made the movie that we wanted to see, that we like to watch. Big fans of the Coen brothers, No Country for Old Men, kind of modern Western type of a thing. And so that's the direction we wanted to take it. And I think the audience, I got to say it, is actually, enjoying it and, relating to it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it very much. It was like I said earlier, I was expecting something bad to happen. I didn't know what was going to happen in the next scene. I was like always looking over my shoulder just to see what would be happening. And some of the actors, you played Raoul, who was really awesome. And Mark Hansen played Jack, and then Blair played Billy Ward. And man, oh man, that was unbelievable. I did see something though. He had to get physically ready for the movie. It took a physical toll on him.
Well, yeah, because he did his own stunts.
Yeah.
That was to me, it was one of those roles where he could have gone, different routes. It's like, do we get somebody that can actually endure the physicality of it? It was very demanding. Or do we use, somebody who specializes in stunt guy who can actually also act? You look at what Quentin Tarantino did with Death Coach, So we were like, well, after a while, we just wanted how would I say that? It became this own thing. You know what I mean? It was very organic, the process. And to me, it's kind of a crossroad between a psychopath and a complete sociopath, really. And so, seeing those two characters, those crossroads, and seeing, this world just slowly unravel is what was interesting, and kind of, like you said, try to keep people on the edge and keep them guessing and whatnot. And I remember when we were shopping the screenplay and nobody was picking it up, I decided to send it out to screenplay competitions. And we started getting, some nods. People seem to enjoy the read and stuff. So finally we said, we can wait another 4.5 years or another 5 years or how long it is to try to go get a bigger budget, or we can just decide to go ahead and roll up our sleeves and do it ourselves. And we decided to go with that one. After a while, it was time. It was challenging, but having the right partners, like you mentioned, Mark Hansen and Billy, and Billy with the physicality and all that. It was very challenging to cast a couple of those parts, But when Billy came into the picture, it was just like, that's it. We know we had the right guy. I had worked with Billy before. Back in 2001, we had done a short film together that I directed and that he was in. And so we'd known each other for a while. We used to hang out in the same kind of neighborhood in development. Same deal with Mark Hansen. It's like we kind of all knew each other from that era. And so collaborated with Mark on several projects as well over the years. So everybody kind of fell into it at the perfect time. It's like we were all free to jump on this thing and wanting to do it with one another. And I think that was the most important thing, So
it's amazing. Also, like in a movie, like the chemistry between the actors is crucial. I mean, you can see some movies out there, it's just a plain movie, but there was a lot of chemistry. You could just tell it went through the screen. I'm sure that was like that during the movie.
It's like the two characters that I really thought were going to be challenging the cast were Billy and Trish. Trish played by Paula Marcinaro. And I just thought those roles could go like either ways. Like I was talking about Billy for a stunt person to stuntman to act in a picture. And, with Paula, with Trish, it was kind of also, it's a very demanding role. And I mean, she was fantastic. I mean, she brought A game and the chemistry and everything. It was such a pleasure working with everybody involved. But I would say these two roles I thought might be a little challenging to cast, especially on the independent level, that we were doing it at. But Paul and I had worked also on the previous project. And so we kind of knew each other. So there's some familiarity that's very, helpful. Of course, when you already worked with some actors, it makes it, a lot easier to get along and to trust one another, which I think is very important, and everybody else that was there. I mean, Rick and Todd Jenkins and Rick Harrod, who played Sullivan, and Brendan Craig. And I mean, everybody was Margosha, who played Sarah, and Gwendolyn Murphy, who plays Kelly. I mean, everybody was just, I don't know if I forgot somebody, probably, but that,
you played Raul, and then Mark played
yeah.
Jack. I mean, you guys had that chemistry there too. You guys were just a bunch of badasses, and that was what really made the movie really like. You guys were playing off each other. Jack was more like the level head, and Raul was more the guy that wanted to get in your face. I thought that was a great dynamic.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And I think that's where when I was saying earlier, the crossroad between a sociopath and a psychopath, because obviously Raul being this sadistic, drug-addicted, psychopathic murderer, and Jack being this kind of, mellow but sociopathic, narcissistic, manipulative kind of person. I mean, two peas in a pod, you know what I mean? It's like he uses Raul to kind of, you know, move things along, if you know what I mean. But in this instance, did he do the right thing? Yeah, I don't know, but it was, it was always trying to challenge. But the chemistry is, once again, it goes back to trusting who you're working with and understanding the direct sheet that we're going with, because that can be a very tough challenge, to show up and start rehearsing and realizing that somebody has a very different idea of what they want to bring to the role, to the character, and having to adjust right there on set. You would think should be easy, but you gotta make sure that everybody's comfortable with the changes or the adjustment that you want to make, and that can be very challenging. But everybody was just rock solid, and it was fun. It was fun. It was small. It was intimate. And so there was, there's always the scary parts about making a movie on this level. Because at this level, just because when you don't have the budget that you need time. Time, and for us, the experience really helped because we've been around for a minute, we're gonna say. And so it was great to be able to pull everybody together at this particular time. So super proud of the work that everybody has done and the dedication and even the support. It's great. It was very something special. No matter what else happens down the road, to me, Blind Blood will always be this special little nugget.
Yeah. You can find it on Amazon and Tubi. So you're looking forward to, after this episode, Amazon and Tubi, just hit Blind Blood and it'll pop right up. This movie's won quite a few awards, Michael. Best Director, New York City Independent Film Festival 2024. Best Feature Film of the Cannes Indie International Film Festival 2023. That's the prestigious one in France, right?
Yes. It's not part of the market like the main film festival. It's a different one, but it was in France, near my hometown, so which is always great. I didn't get to go this year, but or that year, I should say. But the film festival routes. It's kind of weird because originally the movie was written really for the distributors in mind. I had directed my first feature in 2001, And taking it out to the American film market in California was really like kind of a shock to the system, but a great learning experience as well. The movie never got picked up, but I came back with, okay, I know what the distributors want. And I think, going in there, we would ask everybody, can you look at our screenplay? Our screener and try to pitch the movie. And people weren't interested. And the three main questions, every distributors that we hit at the time were asking the same three questions. Who is in it? What did you shoot it on? And do you have any nudity and violence? And so, if you don't have A-listers, and you're like, okay, so you got to make a genre piece in order to sell it. And so when I came back, I was like, okay, I gotta shift focus right there. And kind of, we've done some short films in the past that were kind of, studying the dark side of human nature. So I was like, okay, we'll do something dark. And so that's where the concept came from. So we weren't thinking about doing film festivals at the time. We wanted to sell the thing. We're like, okay, let's make a product that we're going to be able to sell. So that was the idea. But as we were making it, we were cutting it, and we got into post, and it was like, well, why don't we just, try to send it out to a few film festivals and see what they think, But Richard, as soon as we wrapped post-production in the summer of 2023, left and went to California, to LA. And he was there when the film market was happening. So he went, and that's when he met our distributors, and he played the trailer, and they said, yeah, we think we can do something with that. And so we talked to other people as well. But at the end of the day, we came back with the Peter Craig, and it was great. But now the movie was kind of sold or, wrapped or whatever. And we already start submitting to film festivals, which, you try to do early on. They always say you want to hit the early bird deadline or whatnot. And so the movie has been shipped out already. And we're like, back in the day, that's what you would do. You would go to film festivals in order to try to find the distributors, hoping that somebody from acquisitions were there and they would see something that they like and they would contact you. But nowadays it's a little different. But with that being said, to your audience out there, if you're making a movie, take the time to go out there, make that in your budget, because if the distributors are flying out to California or Berlin or wherever kind of film markets can, being one of them, they like to meet you in person, because people these days just think, the internet is right there. I can look up their email. I can find them. It's easy. It makes a big difference. So don't cut that out of the equation when you're considering, distributing your movie. So, and we were very fortunate in that way that Richard was there, and, they saw something that they liked, and they saw a potential in it. So.
Yeah, what I liked about the movie, and I guess you mentioned the Coen brothers earlier. They did Fargo, did they not?
Yes.
Kind of had that. I had that uneasy feeling, like in Fargo with this movie, because I didn't know what was going to happen next. I was waiting for something to happen, like the part where Billy Ward drove up to the house of Jack towards the beginning of the movie. That was a very good setup scene, and then also the one where the police officer drove up in the squad car. And Jack is like trying to stall him, and he was kind of uneasy. But those parts there were really uneasy, and I kind of had that little feel to it. You didn't know what was going to happen.
Well, thank you. It's a huge compliment. You just paid me right there, paid us. Yeah, and mentioning the Coen brothers is definitely yeah, but thank you. Yeah, it's like he was trying to create those tense moments and wondering, not trying to overdo them, but do them like maybe a couple of times with different, characters. Like you mentioned, it's like when Billy shows up, what is going on? But then, of course, with everything else that happens when we get to that second scene, yeah, you really kind of wonder what's about to happen. And there's kind of the same situation with Kelly, the neighbors. When the guys, are hanging out in I don't want to say too much because you start giving away, but when the guys are in a courtyard and then they have the interaction with the neighbors, also has a little bit of that, what's going to, happen. And I think that's what makes it fun. That's what kind of keeps you on your toes. And, like we were talking about earlier about the script, it's kind of like, I know people read the script and were like, well, this is not my cup of tea, but I can't put it down. I want to turn the page to see what happens next. So we said, hopefully we'll be able to catch that visually and carry that idea throughout to make sure that our audience doesn't, turn off or, halfway through.
Didn't turn it off. I had it on the whole movie. You played Raul. So how did you have to get into the moment for each scene? Because you were totally like, you were badass in that movie.
Oh, thank you. No. No, I didn't have to. And I'm going to tell you why. It's, for me, it was kind of like, you are also so busy doing other things that when it's time to jump in, you just do your thing and then you snap out of it. You go back, you look at the monitor, you do playback, you look at different things. But I had, Richard that was there to help with the direction. If I was a little too much, not enough, he would always kind of, hand at it or, let me know. And so knowing that I had, Richard behind, I could kind of let go and do whatever, I came up with. But no, I don't take it home. I don't, it's like, it's almost like easier to do something like that for me than it is to go and audition for a one-liner. A one-liner, you'll be just like going over and over and over the line. And then you get there and you just have blip and you're like, oh, really? At least, those characters had written. So I knew them pretty well. And we rehearse as well. So it was really easy to snap in and out of it if you want, if you want.
I've talked to directors and actors, and it's hard work putting movies together. It's not easy because the final product is what we see, and it looks so perfect. But there's a lot of work on all fronts with the people in the backstage, or behind the scenes, and the actors, and it's a team collaboration.
Yes, and we were lucky because of the years of experience, I think. I was a production assistant, and then I made my way up to the art department. I loved, looking at the sets, working with the production designer and art directors that would create those great sets and finding the right prop and all that, those little details that sometimes you don't really pay attention to, but it's just this world that's being created around the actors. It's like, hey, we're going to put you in this world so you can do your thing. And so, we had to wear many hats, but it wasn't because we wanted to. Trust me, I don't want to do that. Again, it was out of necessity, and after being in the art department for almost 10 years, I went into post-production in my 30s and started back from scratch. But I wanted to learn the art of editing. And so I've been doing that 2006, well, almost 20 years. And so we brought a lot of experience with us, but it took a minute just because when you don't have the money, you need the time and you need collaborators that you can trust as well, because we shot for, a period of time that was about a year and a few months, almost a year and a half, I would say. So, things happen in a year and a half, or, it's like people go away, things change, people get different roles, they get booked on things. So it had to be written in a way where, people would come in, they would do their job, and then they would get out, and keep the core actors, which was, Mark and I, and, Billy towards, after when he came on board. So it was kind of, having those three there, knowing that everybody will be there. But like I said, it was challenging and scary on the level because you don't know what's going to happen within a period of time of, extended like that. People shoot movies in 20 days now, and I wouldn't mind trying, but
before we got on the episode here, you talked about you worked years back in the 90s on the set of Point Blank, and so about if you that started make your work. So talk about that. What was that experience like, and how did that inspire you?
Well, it's for me it was surreal, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because the acting for me I remember it was 1989, 1990. A friend of mine came up and said, "Hey, man, you got to come over to the house and watch this movie." And I said, "All right." And so I went and sat down and we did watch it. And it was Angel Heart, Mickey Rourke, Robert De Niro, Lisa Bonet, Margaret Rampling, directed by Alan Parker. And that movie, I mean, the way Mickey's work on this movie was just so, as an actor, was like, I want to do that. You know, I want to be able to do that. He was so natural. He was effortless. He was real. He was emotional, but without being over the top. That's the movie that for me, like, was like, wow, I want to do that. You know, prior to that, I was like, I love Sylvester Stallone. You know, I love Sly. Nothing in that at all. You know, it's like it was just, you know, Big Rocky and Rambo, you know, those were big movies back then. So there was a different genre. You know, that's all I meant by that. I think Sylvester Stallone is a really great actor. And I mean, Rocky's, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, you can't touch it. But anyway, so for me, working on that movie with Mickey Rourke was just like, it was surreal. But yeah, so what did I learn was that, well, you know, you keep at it, and sometimes things just, you know, turn out to be interesting and pretty cool. You know, for me to be able to work with somebody that, you know, growing up in France, like I was saying, in the 70s and 80s, Hollywood and all that is like, it's a different world. It's a galaxy. Like I never get there. You know, you don't think about it, and just like that, your world changes. Next thing you know, you're in the US, and 5 years later, you're working on the set with somebody that you admired for years. So it was great. You know, 2.5, almost 3 months, I think, working as a set dresser on that movie. Which when you're working as a set dresser on an action flick, there's a lot of bullets. There's a lot of shells on the ground. You got to shovel back between takes.
I'm going to have to watch those two movies. I got them written down because I love watching 80s and 90s movies as well. When I was working in radio in the early 90s, I was driving into the station in Lowell, Mass. When I was going into work, it was 5 a.m, and I saw all these trailers coming in, and they were filming the movie, the opening scene for School Ties with Brendan Fraser, Matt Damon, Chris O'Donnell. And they were filming it at a place called Dana's Confectionery. And they were there for a whole week, the trucks, I remember, and they had it blocked off, but the scene's only like a minute or like 2 or 3 minutes at the beginning of the movie. It's amazing how much work goes into like a scene like that.
I mean, if you look at the credits at the end of a movie, you know, you just realize that this is, you know, this is why all these people are there. You know what I mean? It's like you watch all those credits, all those names up there, and it's just like, wow, dude, all these people have jobs. And that's why it takes that many people to make sure that you do it right. You know, once again, like I was saying earlier, it's like, I don't want to be wearing all these hats. We had to do it out of necessity, and we didn't have the support that, you know, this big production company usually have. But we had the passion, we had the fire. We just wanted to make a movie, you know, and we wanted to make something good. And so we just didn't want to shoot something, wrap it up, and let it go. But you just had to do it on our own, you know. So, but yeah, maybe one day, you know, get a budget big enough to afford all these trucks and have a caterer that's not me, and yeah, it'd be good.
Is there a Blind Blood 2 sequel? Could that be in the works?
It depends.
Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah. If anybody out there wants to talk to us about it, we're open, you know, with the right story and the right moment. I say, who knows, you know?
Yeah. Raul and Jack are two good characters that play off each other. I thought that was dynamic. So talk about some of your influences. I know just by reading your biography, Dirty Harry was one of your influences, Towering Inferno, but there's many others. Talk about your influences watching movies growing up, because Dirty Harry is like one of the all-time greats, iconic movies.
Yes. I mean, anything that has to do with like cinema from the 70s. And, you know, even in France, you know, Jean-Pierre Melville, which, you know, of course, the 60s, not the 70s. But when you talk about a movie like Le Samouraï with Alain Delon, so it's still that, the greedy mob world and, assassins and so all these movies from the 70s with Steve McQueen and Charles Bronson and Clint Eastwood and were just movies that I grew up with. TV, it was Starsky and Hutch. We had Kojak.
Yeah.
And, these are the TV shows that I really enjoy. This greedy New York. Probably, I just started watching Kojak again, the reruns on Netflix. I got to tell you, man, that's some dark stuff. I probably was a little too young to be watching that stuff.
Yeah.
Then, but oh yeah, the way it was shot, it was really greedy and dirty. That seedy world of New York back in the day was kind of I don't know. It's like I said, it was a magical world. It was a world that I'll never know. Growing up, it was something that growing up in the south of France, it doesn't look like that. So
Yeah.
So all that American influence, we're talking about a time also right around the Cold War.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of influences coming from both sides. And so how do you push movies, music, fashion? And so there was a lot of American music, a lot of American movies, and in our house we loved it. We loved every bit of it, and I got my dual citizenship now, and I'm making movies here, and it was, it was just fantastic. You look at The Great Escape with Steve McQueen and everybody else back there, and all these movies were just like, it was fun. It was a lot of fun and dreaming and hoping that maybe one day if you're lucky enough, you can do something like that.
Movies then like in the 70s, 80s, you said you watch Kojak and some other shows. It really says a lot about at that time what things may have been like, and the wardrobes, the cars. You look back, that was that at that time. And then the Cold War in the 80s, you had Rocky. One of the Rocky movies with Dolph Lundgren was the Soviets versus the Americans, and then Top Gun, it was the U.S. You didn't really know didn't really say it was the Soviet Union, but you tell because there was a red star. That was the Cold War. So there was like that conflict, that enemy, the evil empire. That was really like you said, at that time, that was rampant.
Yeah. And the fall of the Berlin Wall, I believe that was in 89 too. It's like, it was a really interesting time. And of course, movies were made differently, than they are now. The look, the feel, it just had a grittier vibe to it. We're talking about a Dirty Harry, and those quick zooms that they used to do. You don't do those anymore. I miss them sometimes, It's almost like you got, these days, everything got almost like too polished, almost too clean, almost too perfect,
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. It looks great. The photography, the cinematography, it's stunning, but I don't know. It's just something about that cinema, that was, and I don't think can be done again just because of, the new technology and the time that's gone, now we're talking about these movies that, like, if you want to do a movies that's based in the 70s or the 80s, it's like, that's a period piece,
Yeah, exactly. Some of the movies that I like, Die Hard's my favorite. A Few Good Men with Tom Cruise. I think that's one of his best movies. Dirty Harry, E.T., Donnie Brasco, My Cousin Vinny are just the usual suspects. Again, that's another movie that was, you didn't know what was happening. You felt bad for the bad guys when they were getting tombstones. So a lot of those movies really are nostalgic for me because I love watching them over and over again. And movies are great because you can watch them, get away for 2 or 3 hours, like with your movie, Blind Blood, get away for less than 2 hours, up to 2 hours, and you just get taken away.
And, at the end of the day, that's all we wanted to do. We just wanted to make something that was interesting, that was fun, that was well produced, well done. There's no agenda. It's not political. It's nothing like that. It's just a movie to entertain you for an hour and 43 minutes. So, kind of take your mind away from your problems, the IRS or whatever is out there in the world these days. And you just, we're giving you a little break from all that. And that's all. We're just telling you a little story here. Hopefully you enjoy the ride. And if that's for you, great. And if it's not, I completely understand as well.
talk about how was the reception? I know there was many awards for Blind Ball. How has been the reception with the moviegoers like me? I'm a connoisseur. I love consumer of movies. So how has that been as far as the reception with the fans?
I think people enjoy it. I mean, people get to see it, you get to watch it. They seem to really genuinely enjoy it. So I'm not necessarily getting a lot of people reaching out to say they enjoyed it. But I do once in a while. We get some email from Australia. I think Australia seems to enjoy it because we've been released in the US, the UK, and in Australia now. So it's fun to hear. Once in a while you get an email. Somebody is like, "Hey, man, I saw your movie. Thought it was great. Here's my reel," and or whatnot. And they try to connect with you. And I always take the time to to say hi, to say hello, and then to respond because if that's who we made the movie for. People really enjoy it. So I'm like, if you like it, let us know. If you like it, let everybody else know because
Exactly.
there's an audience out there. We're just trying to find it. And with the support that, somebody like you with your podcast that you guys are providing, it's really terrific. It's fantastic. So thank you very much for that, So,
Oh, no problem. And I still can't believe I didn't realize 3/4 of the movie that you were Raul. I said, man, that's Michael. I was like, whoa. I was like, cool, man. That's cool.
well, thank you.
Let's talk about, like, you want to talk about movies, some
Sure.
iconic movies for a few minutes. What are some movies that really stick out? Like one of my favorite movies of all time is E.T.
Yeah.
Just for the kids outdo the government and the adults. And I still think the ending of E.T. is one of the greatest endings of all time of any movie. I think that movie is just that. Every time I see that ending, it just blows me away. It's just like, wow.
It's a fantastic piece. I mean, Steven Spielberg, man, it's like his body of work is so incredible. But I'm a big fan of Munich from him. I think Munich is a fantastic, and once again about an event that happened in the 70s. So maybe getting that era back on film the way he did it was just. I mean, for me, that's one of my favorite. Maybe because of that, that love that I had for that cinema from the 70s. But yeah, E.T.'s. I mean, I remember seeing it in the theater when I was a kid. I think we went for like Christmas on Christmas Day or something like that, and it was the experience in a theater, with everybody. I hope he comes back one day. I hope it's not just for the big movies. I hope that some youngsters out there will still enjoy a good movie. It's not all about the series where you want to just sit there and binge watch 8 hours or a couple of seasons in a weekend, but just a love for that character driven stories, for those character driven stories, and just kind of experience it within theater. Because you were asking about the fans and the audiences. It's like, it's funny to watch the movie with different audiences because you'll get different reactions. So it's kind of like, it was one of those things where it's like stuff that I thought were funny. Some people laughed, some people didn't. Sometimes, and vice versa. Sometimes they're like, hey, that line wasn't supposed to be funny, but somebody found it hilarious or funny. You hear people. So experiencing something like that with everybody is I hope something that comes back more, because when you watch E.T. on a big screen with 300 people, 400 people, it's just incredible. It's an incredible feeling. Same deal with Rocky 3. I remember seeing Rocky 3 in the theater. I came out of there. I was like, I can take on the world. Bring it.
Yeah.
That was 45 pounds. And it's like it's that feeling, that energy that movies give you. That's that you don't experience on a phone or tablet or even at home. It's got to be experienced with a group in a theater with no interruptions, and that's it. So that's.
Recently we had some actors pass away, Gene Hackman and Val Kilmer. It's like when they pass away, it's like they never know us. We're just the audience, but it's like a part of our family passes away. Gene Hackman, he was in Hoosiers. Hoosiers is one of my all-time favorites because he was just so great. And he played so many different characters in his career. Val Kilmer was Iceman in Top Gun, and then he plays, well, my mind just went blank, in Tombstone. Doc Holliday.
Doc Holliday, yeah.
And it's just amazing how he can play, these actors can play different roles. It's just like you lose a part of your family, like when an actor passes away, but you still have them like in their young days. And that's what's good about going back to watch a movie from one of those two or any actor or actress.
Yeah. You mentioned Gene Hackman. I remember him in Superman, Richard Donner, back in the day, and The French Connection, and even his later movie with Wes Anderson, The Royal Tenenbaums, and it's Val Kilmer, like you said, Jim Morrison. Oh, Jim Morrison, The Doors, man, Oliver Stone. That was just, at the time, he was, yeah, they're with you. And, you grow up with them, and you grow, and when they go, it kind of feels like, yeah, part of you is also going away with them because, even though they're not as big as they used to be towards the end of their lives or whatnot, they still leave an incredible body of work behind. And it's sad, but it's, I guess in a way, it's part of life. And it's one of those things that's kind of like, man, you got to tip your hat off because like you were saying, making a movie takes a lot of people, and even making a bad movie is a lot of work, and it's hard. So, it's kind of like, wow, man, you see all those guys that really got some great roles in some great movies, like great directors, and you're like, wow, I mean, that's the lottery ticket right there,
Yeah.
So, they're the new generation, there's people coming around, and it's interesting. Yeah, but the cinema has changed. How do you see it from your end? I mean, you don't watch movies the way we did when we were growing up. So
I don't go to movies as much as I used to, but I drove by a movie theater here in Memphis on Saturday afternoon, and the parking lot for the matinee was absolutely packed. I haven't seen that in years. So the matinee was definitely packed. The last movie I saw in the theater was Top Gun Maverick. I'll watch it at home when stuff comes out. I have my own digital library, but I hope that sometime the movies do come back because I think it's an experience to go back. I remember going to see Terminator 2 when it was July 4th. The Rocky came out, I believe, in July 4th weekends during those time frames. And I remember waiting in line. It was nonstop. They had 2 or 3 screenings in the movie theaters at that time. So I think it's coming back. I think with COVID, I think people are starting to get back into the swing of things, but I don't know if it'll ever be to where it was before.
Yeah, I mean, when you go and you watch like a superhero movie on a big screen, it's great. It's fantastic. I think that's one of the things about the big screen. It's now having the technology to have somebody fly through galaxies and throw people through buildings and it doesn't have to be done, practically. Like it used to be back in the day, but so that's great. But the character-driven movies is what I think is kind of I'm longing for. I want to see that coming back. Something that's not this big spectacle of sound effects and visual effects, but more once again story-driven and character-driven. And it's hard, but there are some Scott Cooper, the guy who did The Black Mass with Johnny Depp. I mean, I love his work.
That's really unbelievable.
Wasn't it?
I love that movie.
Yes.
Yeah. Johnny Depp played Bulger. Unbelievable. That movie was just insane.
Yeah.
Another great actor. He plays Pirates of the Caribbean. He plays Black Mass. He plays Edward Scissorhands. Willy Wonka, he's just so talented and such a great actor, but he was so convincing. He looked evil when in that wardrobe that he was in.
Oh yeah, that's an incredible piece of cinema right there. It's the same director who did Out of the Furnace. I don't know if you've seen that with Christian Bale and Casey Affleck and Woody Harrelson. That's some dark, brutal stuff too. Really, really good stuff. So I really love his work, and I hope theatrical releases kind of go back towards that genre as well, and not just the big superhero stuff. But we'll see. I think times change. That's what you learn. Growing up, I thought there was going to always be one way to shoot movies. You know, you thought that, you know, you learn film, you learn 35 millimeter film for years, how to light, how to develop, how to digitize, how to ingest in an added suite to edit and all that. And you don't think it's going to go away. And then boom, 2005, 6-ish, around that time, that's when HD took over the market and went from, you know, being something that people were just talking about to now this is real. It's happening right now, and everybody start coming up with their own codecs and different HD, you know, formats and whatnot. So it was very interesting to see. But yeah, hopefully back to the, you know, back to that genre of film would be fantastic, you know.
Do you have any projects coming up, or you working on any projects in the works that may be coming up in the future?
Well, I'm finishing a screenplay right now. I have a handful that I really, really enjoy that I want to try to shop around a little more. But I'm finishing another one right now, and I got already another one structured in my head. So I got two writing things that two screenplays that I'm trying to work on right now. I mean, unless somebody out there wants to come and make a movie, just let me know. Easy to find. Somebody some writing right now.
How long does that take to do a screenplay?
Well, you know, for me, for Blind Blood, it was like the first one, I believe, it was about 3 months. But then it's the rewrites that take a little bit of time. And it depends what kind of story you want to tell and the structure of it. I mean, I started some screenplays where I just felt like, it's not going anywhere. I should try something else, you know. Not often, but it happened a couple of times. But so, I mean, it can vary. I mean, I would say between 3 months and a year and a half, 2 years, depending on what happens in your life. You know, that's the thing. Like, once again, people move, things happen. And so sometimes you got to put things on a back burner, you know, and take care of some other things or deal with other projects, or especially being in front and behind the camera, having to jump. And it's you know, it's very rewarding, but it's also very challenging as well. But so it's right now we're kind of studying the marketing portion of it and how to promote and what people are doing these days in independent filmmaking. It's just incredible with the internet and connecting with people such as yourself and who love independent cinema and support us. And it's been interesting just connecting and navigating those waters that unless you have a movie, you don't really know about. So it's been great, man. It's been a hell of a ride, you know. So definitely grateful and thankful for the support that we've gotten so far and for the experience, you know.
I'll tell you what, Blind Blood, awesome movie. Michael Marco, director and editor, has been my guest. It is a tremendous movie. He actually stars in the movie as well as directing it, and he is Raul. You will definitely like Raul, and I'm going to go ahead and purchase it on Amazon just because I'm going to put it in my library. Michael Marco, thank you so much for joining me on my podcast. It's truly an honor. I'm honored that you came on. I really am.
Well, Rob, the honor is all mine. Thank you so much. And please, guys, keep watching his podcast, man. He's awesome. So keep at it. And once again, thank you so much. It means a lot, man. Thank you.
Thank you.